The next morning, the world looked different. The rain had washed the sky clean, and a soft golden light filtered through the trees that surrounded Daniel's modest home. Elise stood near the window, wrapped in the borrowed hoodie, watching. The mist rise from the ground like breath from the earth. She hadn't slept, but for the first time in weeks, she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding in a train station or a diner bathroom. She was still, safe. Or so she thought. Daniel was in the kitchen making breakfast when he noticed something odd: a black car parked far down the road. It hadn't been there yesterday. His stomach tightened. He stepped outside, pretending to sip his coffee, watching. No movement. No driver he could see. But something about it felt wrong, like a hunter waiting in silence. He went back inside and locked the door. "Elise," he said quietly, "is there any chance they followed you?" She turned, her face pale. "I was careful. I don't think. So, well, someone's out there." She stiffened. "I should go." "No," Daniel said firmly. "You're not running again. Not alone." A soft sound interrupted them, Milo's sleepy voice, asking for breakfast. Elise blinked and turned, her eyes softening. "Let me help you," she said, and before Daniel could protest, she was already flipping pancakes, laughing quietly as Milo tugged at her sleeve. In that kitchen, for a few fleeting minutes, everything felt normal, like a family, like possibility. But the illusion didn't last. Later that afternoon, a knock came at the door, measured, deliberate. Daniel moved toward it slowly, gesturing for Elise to stay back. Two men in dark coats stood outside, one holding a file folder, the other with hands in his pockets and eyes that scanned the house like a machine. The first man smiled. "Mr. Hayes, we're with a government task force. We're tracking a woman who may be in danger. Her name is Elise Garner. We believe she's mentally unstable and may be a threat to herself and others." Daniel felt his heart pound. "I haven't seen anyone." The man tilted his head. "You sure?" Daniel didn't flinch. "Pretty sure." The second man's eyes narrowed. Then, without a word, they turned and walked away. That night, Elise sat at the table, her hands shaking. "They've rewritten my story," she whispered. "They'll paint me as a lunatic. If I disappear, no one will ask questions. No one will come looking." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. "Then you won't disappear." "Not here." And that's when Elise pulled something from her bag. A USB drive. "This," she said, "is what they're really after. It's proof: data logs, patient files, photos. I didn't know what I was copying when I did it, but now I do." They were using patients' testing on them, hidden under government contracts. "This is the only copy left." Daniel stared at it. "Then we need to get it to someone who can actually expose them." "You'd help me?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "You showed up at my door in the rain. That's not just coincidence. That's purpose." What followed was a blur: contacting a friend of Daniel's in the press, meeting in secret, handing over the drive. Within a week, the story hit national news. Whistleblower nurse exposes illegal medical experiments. Names were dropped, arrests made. The shadowy men in black suits vanished like smoke. And Elise? She didn't disappear. She stayed. She found work at a small rural clinic. She helped Milo with his homework. She planted flowers along Daniel's front porch and learned how to fix old floorboards that creaked too much. And slowly, quietly, Daniel realized he wasn't alone anymore. He had opened his door to a stranger in the rain, but what he found was something more than a mystery, more than a threat, more than a secret on a flash drive. He found a partner, a survivor, a woman whose identity had once been hidden, but who now stood with him, fully seen. And yes, he was speechless, but not from shock anymore, from gratitude. The rain had been falling for hours, sharp, cold sheets of water hammering down from the sky like it was punishing the earth. Daniel gripped the steering wheel tighter as his old pickup truck grumbled along the winding country road. His son, Milo slept curled in the back seat beneath a pile of blankets, his small hand still clinging to his stuffed bear that had seen better days. It had been another long day of work, Daniel picking up extra shifts in town just to keep food on the table, gas in the truck, and the heater running back home. Being a single father wasn't a title he had asked for, but it was one he wore. With quiet pride, he didn't complain. He didn't have time to. That night, though, something changed. Through the sheets of rain on the windshield, Daniel saw a figure walking alone along the roadside. No umbrella, no coat. Just a woman in nurse's scrubs. It looked like drenched, her hair plastered to her face, one hand wrapped tightly around a duffel bag. She stumbled a little, like she had been walking for miles. Instinctively, Daniel pulled over. The woman didn't hesitate. She rushed to the passenger door, pulling it open with trembling fingers. Her eyes met his wide, alert, and afraid. But she said nothing. "You all right?" Daniel asked. She nodded quickly. "I just need to get out of the rain, please." There was something in her voice, something brittle, like a porcelain plate that had been cracked one too many times. Without a second thought, Daniel said, "Hop in." She slid into the seat, holding the duffel tight on her lap like it contained her entire world. They rode in silence for several minutes, the only sound being the hiss of the tires on wet pavement and the quiet wheeze of the truck's heater. Daniel wanted to ask questions: who she was, where she was going, why she looked so shaken, but something told him not to. "Not yet." Finally she spoke. "My name's Elise," she said, her voice low. I'm a nurse, or I was." Daniel nodded, not pushing. "I walked out of the hospital tonight," she continued. "I didn't know where to go. Then I saw your truck." "I'm sorry if this is weird." He offered a gentle smile. "Weird would be leaving you out there." She glanced at him just for a second, and something shifted in her expression. A tiny sliver of trust. Daniel didn't ask where she had come from, and Elise didn't offer. The ride stretched on, and the silence between them softened, not tense, but fragile, like a quiet that could break if touched too hard. Milo stirred in the backseat, letting out a soft sigh, and Elise turned to look. "You have a son?" she asked gently. Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror, then smiled. "Yeah, that's Milo, 6 years old. He's the reason I keep showing up every day." "He's lucky," she whispered. "Most men would have left." Daniel shrugged. "Most days I don't know what I'm doing." But leaving never felt like an option. A faint smile touched Elise's lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was something heavy in her gaze, something she was holding back. By the time they reached Daniel's small, weather-worn house on the edge of the woods, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. He parked the truck and turned to her. "You need somewhere to stay?" Elise hesitated, clutching her bag tighter. "Just for the night. I'll be gone in the morning." Daniel nodded. "You're welcome to crash on the couch." Inside, the house was modest but warm. A small fireplace crackled in the corner. The air smelled of cinnamon and old wood. Milo yawned as Daniel carried him inside and tucked him onto the worn-out sofa bed in the living room. Elise stood awkwardly near the doorway, dripping water onto the floor. Daniel handed her a towel and a change of clothes, one of his oversized hoodies and a pair of sweatpants. "You can dry off in the bathroom. It's small, but it works." She looked at him with quiet gratitude. "Thank you." Later that night, after Milo was fast asleep and the rain had faded into mist outside, Daniel sat across from Elise at the kitchen table. They shared mugs of tea, steam curling into the space between them. She stared down into hers like it might reveal some secret she wasn't ready to say aloud. Finally, Daniel spoke. "You don't have to tell me, but if you need to talk." Elise swallowed hard. Her hands shook slightly as she set the cup down. "There was a man, a patient," her voice cracked. "He came in with gunshot wounds. We were told not to treat him." Daniel frowned. "Not to treat him? Why?" She looked up at him, eyes blazing with something between fear and fury. Because he was part of something. A name I wasn't supposed to say, but I treated him anyway. I couldn't let him die. And then he disappeared. And the next day, my ID was deactivated. My apartment was broken into. I found my cat poisoned. No note, no explanation, just silence, like I'd never existed. Daniel sat back, stunned. I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Or helped someone I wasn't supposed to help. And now they're looking for you. Elise nodded slowly. But you don't even know who they are? No, her voice trembled, but I know they're watching. And if I hadn't gotten in your truck? She didn't finish the sentence. Daniel exhaled, running a hand down his face. He wasn't a cop. He wasn't a hero. Just a man trying to raise a child, trying to make it through one day at a time. But somehow, this woman had fallen into his life, and something inside him said she didn't just need shelter. She needed protection. And maybe, just maybe, he needed someone to believe in again.